The morning light filtering through the curtains woke me up. Getting out of bed, I noticed that Michael was already up. When I went downstairs to the kitchen, I saw him preparing breakfast, an omelet, fresh vegetables, and coffee, whose aroma filled the entire house. It seemed he was trying to bring back something that had been lost for a long time. I nodded to him, but couldn't stay. Work demanded my attention, and I felt I had to be there. Quickly getting dressed, I grabbed my bag and, barely glancing at the breakfast, hurried to the door. "I'm late," I threw over my shoulder and left the house, leaving Michael alone in the kitchen. His attempts seemed futile to me, and I didn't know how to tell him that. At work, I immersed myself in tasks, but thoughts of Michael and our problems didn't leave me. All day, I tried not to think about it, but it was hard. Returning home in the evening, I felt the same tension in the air again. Our conversations had become short and mechanical. I increasingly avoided his gaze, unable to find the words to explain what I was feeling. The next day, as I was getting ready for work, Michael suggested spending the weekend together. I knew he wanted to bring back the days when everything was good, but work had become a refuge from our problems. "I have a lot of work to do," I replied, feeling the wall between us being rebuilt. I noticed his suspicious looks, his attempts to understand what was happening. One evening, when I was late at work again, Michael offered to walk our dog, Max. I felt relief, knowing he would leave the house and perhaps stop watching my every step. But then I learned that he had encountered Tom, our neighbor. Tom was always successful and confident. He knew how to joke, but often his jokes were cutting. "How's our millionaire without millions doing?" I heard when Michael returned home. I saw how it hurt him, but said nothing. We plunged into silence again, each of us finding solace in our own thoughts and tasks. I understood that Michael felt like a failure, and it broke my heart. But I didn't know how to help him and deal with our own problems. Our home was no longer a place of comfort and warmth. It had turned into a battlefield where each of us fought our own demons. Michael had been trying his best lately. I noticed that he had taken on more household chores, striving to help me and show his support. He cleaned the house, made breakfast, and even tried to organize our bills. Every act of his seemed to scream, "Look at me, I'm still here. I want to be part of your life." But my mind was preoccupied with other things, and I couldn't but I couldn't confess, fearing it would destroy everything completely. Our home had turned into a place of coldness and estrangement, and I couldn't see a way out of this maze. Late one evening, Michael was walking our dog, Max. He always enjoyed these walks. They gave him time to think and a brief respite from all his worries. But that evening, everything went wrong. Max suddenly broke free from his leash and, ignoring Michael's commands, bolted towards Tom's house. Michael ran after him, feeling a growing unease. When he caught up to Max at Tom's house, he noticed a light in the living room window. Instinctively, he moved closer and peeked inside. What he saw left him in shock. Tom and I were in each other's arms. Tom was looking at me intently, his eyes burning with desire. Our kiss started slow, but quickly turned into a storm of passion. Tom ran his hand along my neck, then down to my collarbone, leaving faint traces of his touch on my skin. His hands slid down, encircling my waist, pulling me closer, as if he wanted to become one with me. I closed my eyes, sighing, my hands beginning to explore his body, gliding over his chest and abdomen, feeling his strength and warmth. Tom decisively tore the shirt from my shoulders, revealing my forms. He touched my back, moving down to my lower back, and I responded to his touch, digging my nails into his back. Our bodies intertwined in a frenzied dance of passion, reflecting the intensity of our desire as we moved from one touch to another, lost in a whirlwind of emotions. At one moment, Tom pulled out something pulsating, and I eagerly took it with my lips, savoring every moment. This action only intensified the heat of our passion, filling the room with the sounds of our pleasure. Michael stood at the window, unable to look away. At that moment, Max defecated by Tom's door, and it brought a fleeting sense of relief and a smile to Michael. He praised his dog for it, though his heart was shattered. A sense of betrayal and loss filled Michael. He slowly stepped away from the window and headed home. There, in solitude, he sought solace in alcohol, trying to numb the pain that was tearing him apart. The next morning, after that dreadful night, I woke up with a heavy heart. Michael looked devastated, and I knew that everything between us was over. I decided to leave him so he could find solace with someone else. Michael spent his days wandering the streets, avoiding returning home. One day, while sitting in the park, he met John, an elderly man with kind eyes and a weary face. John offered him company, and Michael agreed, desperately needing comfort. They started talking, and Michael unexpectedly felt relieved, sharing his troubles. One day, visiting John's house, Michael noticed old but valuable furniture covered in dust and abandoned in a corner. "These are real antiques," Michael said, running his finger over the carved pattern on a table. John nodded. "Yes, they were part of my life once, but now I'm too old to restore them." Michael felt he had found a new calling. He suggested to John that they restore these old vintage and rare items together. John was surprised, but agreed, seeing in this a chance to reclaim lost time and find meaning in life. They started working together. John, with his talent for restoration, and Michael, with his knowledge of the market and sales. Soon their work began to bear fruit. They restored old tables, cabinets, and dressers, giving them new shine and life. Each piece was unique, and their shared passion for this work only strengthened their drive for success. Over time, Michael and John's business began to thrive. They found new antiques, restored them, and sold them at a profit. Their reputation grew, and soon they had regular clients who appreciated their work and dedication. Michael finally found solace and meaning in life. He no longer felt lonely and lost. Together with John, they not only created a successful business, but also found true friendship that helped them overcome all difficulties. Meanwhile, Emily continued her business trips, unaware that Michael knew about her affair with Tom. He chose not to confront her, preferring to focus on his new venture and a life full of new opportunities and hopes. A month had passed since Michael and John started their business restoring old vintage and rare items. Their work brought not only financial success but also inner satisfaction. Each restored piece was like a new life they were giving to forgotten items. Michael and John worked tirelessly, expanding production and hiring new employees. Their workshop became a place filled with a creative atmosphere and mutual respect. Clients appreciated their work, and orders kept coming in. They started collaborating with galleries and antique shops, further solidifying their position in the market. One day, while working in the workshop, John received a letter from his daughter, Sarah. She wrote that she wanted to visit with her daughter, Lily. When Michael learned about this, he offered them to stay at his place so they could spend more time together. John gratefully accepted the offer, and soon Michael's home was filled with life and laughter again. Sarah and Lily turned out to be wonderful guests. Lily was a charming girl who immediately bonded with Michael. She often spent time in the workshop, watching the restoration process and asking many questions. Sarah, in turn, was grateful to Michael for his hospitality and support of her father. The relationship between Michael and John grew stronger every day. They became not just business partners, but true friends. John shared his experience and knowledge with Michael, while Michael helped John master modern technologies and marketing. Together, they overcame all difficulties and celebrated successes. Their home became a place filled with an atmosphere of understanding and support. Michael found in John and his family what he had lost in his relationship with Emily: warmth, friendship, and a sense of belonging. It had been a month since I last saw Michael. My business trips with Tom had become routine, and I thought Michael suspected nothing. But one evening I came home, exhausted and full of regrets. I realized that all my decisions had only made things worse. I entered the house, expecting a cold reception, but the reality was even harsher. Michael was standing in the living room, his face a mix of anger and disappointment. "We need to talk," he said with cold determination. "Michael, I want to apologize," I began, trying to find the right words. "I made a mistake. I don't know how to fix this, but I want to try." Michael raised his hand, cutting me off. "Fix?" he repeated, his voice shaking with anger. "You think this can just be fixed?" "Michael, please, I know I've hurt you," I said, desperately trying to hold his gaze. He laughed, but there was no joy in it. "You know, Emily, I was just wondering if you and Tom stepped in Max's droppings by the door. That would be quite symbolic, don't you think?" His voice was dripping with sarcasm and mockery, but his eyes were filled with deep pain. I felt the blood drain from my face. "Michael, No, Emily," he interrupted again, now without a smile. "You need to leave. I can't take this anymore." The conflict intensified. I tried to explain, begged him to give me a chance to make things right, but Michael was resolute. He was firm in his decision, and I realized I had lost him forever. It had been several weeks since I left Michael. The house had become quieter, and although I thought he would suffer, he seemed to have found solace in his work and new relationship with John. I heard that their business continued to thrive, bringing them joy and satisfaction. Sometimes I saw them in town, and each time I felt a pang of envy and regret. Michael and John worked tirelessly. Their team grew, and the workshop became well known among antique enthusiasts. Together, they restored unique items, each with its own story. Through their work, Michael and John grew even closer, and their friendship strengthened. One day, during lunch, John shared his feelings with Michael. He talked about how he had lost contact with his daughter, Sarah, and granddaughter, Lily, because of his past. Seeing how this burdened John, Michael offered to help him restore the relationship with his family. "You deserve to be with them," Michael said. "I know how important it is to have family nearby." With Michael's support, John wrote a heartfelt letter to his daughter, apologizing for everything and expressing hope for reconciliation. Michael helped John maintain contact with Sarah and Lily, and soon they agreed to meet. The meeting was filled with tears and hugs, but it marked the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. When Sarah and Lily arrived, Michael's home was once again filled with life and laughter. Lily was a charming girl who immediately bonded with Michael. She often spent time in the workshop, watching the restoration process and asking many questions. Sarah, in turn, was grateful to Michael for his hospitality and support of her father. An undeniable spark developed between Michael and Sarah. They spent a lot of time together, discussing work, life, and the past. Their conversations grew warmer and more sincere. John, observing them, couldn't help but smile. He remembered that Sarah's husband had died in a plane crash and was glad that something indefinable and attractive had developed between such a good man as Michael and his daughter. The relationship between Michael and John grew stronger every day. They became not just business partners, but true friends. John shared his experience and knowledge with Michael, while Michael helped John master modern technologies and marketing. The business continued to thrive. The number of orders grew, and the workshop needed expansion. Michael and John invested in new equipment, hired additional workers, and opened a new showroom where clients could see the results of their work. Their reputation continued to grow, and clients came from afar to commission restorations from the best craftsmen. The prosperity of the business and the strengthening of friendship became sources of strength for Michael. He found his place in life, surrounded by people who valued and supported him. Reconciliation with the past gave him the opportunity to start anew, leaving behind the pain and disappointments. Several months had passed since I left Michael and moved in with Tom. Life with Tom turned out to be far from the fairy tale I had imagined. I often thought about my decision to leave Michael after his financial collapse, chastising myself for my materialism. Despite all my attempts to find happiness with Tom, I felt only emptiness and disappointment. One day, while walking down the street, I saw Michael with Sarah and Lily. They were laughing and looked so happy. Their eyes sparkled with joy and contentment. I learned that Michael and John had opened their own antique shop, and the business was thriving. It hurt to realize that I had missed the chance to be with such a wonderful person as Michael for the illusion of prosperity. Michael and John had truly created something amazing. Their shop was filled with restored antique items, each with its own unique story. The day the shop opened was a big event for both of them. People admired their work, and I could only imagine how much labor and effort had gone into every detail. John's family had reunited. Sarah and Lily stayed with Michael, and their home was filled with joy and harmony. John often visited, and they spent evenings over dinner, discussing plans for the future. Lily ran around the house, bringing smiles and laughter to everyone. Michael found new goals and meaning in life. He realized that true values lay in the people around you and in doing what you love. The business became not just a way to make money, but a passion he was proud of. He left the past behind, forgiving me and accepting his mistakes as part of his journey. I stood on the sidelines and watched as Michael found his happiness. My materialism and desire for luxury led me to lose a man who truly loved me. I saw how Michael became stronger and happier, and it gave me hope that maybe one day I could find my path to redemption too.